The trade war between the United States and China is reaching new heights. But this time, China is hitting where it really hurts, cutting off tungsten exports, a critical mineral used in U.S. military operations. This move is more than just economic retaliation. It's a bold power play that exposes America's dependence on foreign resources. In today's video, we'll break down what this decision means, how it impacts the U.S. economy, and why it could reshape global trade for years to come. But before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update on global affairs and economic trends. How Trump's tariffs are hurting America. When former President Trump imposed tariffs on Chinese goods, the goal was clear: protect American industries and create jobs. However, the reality is far more complicated. Tariffs are essentially taxes on imported goods, and when those costs rise, businesses pass them on to consumers. That means everything from household essentials to advanced technology becomes more expensive. Higher prices lead to reduced consumer spending, which can slow economic growth. Manufacturing, agriculture, and tech industries, sectors that rely heavily on imported materials, are particularly vulnerable. Companies facing higher production costs often seek alternatives, such as outsourcing jobs or cutting wages, ultimately harming American workers rather than protecting them. So, while tariffs may sound like a patriotic move, they often end up damaging the very economy they were meant to strengthen. China and tungsten, a strategic move. China's decision to halt tungsten exports is no coincidence. This mineral is essential in military applications, including armor-piercing ammunition, aircraft manufacturing, and missile production. By restricting supply, China is not just retaliating against U.S. tariffs. It's sending a clear message about its economic leverage. This move forces the U.S. to either find new suppliers or ramp up domestic production, both of which take time and money. In the meantime, American military operations could face critical supply shortages, raising concerns about national security. But why is China doing this now? The answer lies in a larger strategy: reshaping global supply chains and asserting its dominance in key industries. While the U.S. plays a short-term game of tariffs and trade restrictions, China is playing the long game. Why Americans are confused about tariffs. Many Americans support tariffs under the belief that they protect jobs and boost the economy. However, the reality is more nuanced. For example, when the U.S. imposes tariffs on Chinese steel, American companies that use steel, like car manufacturers, face higher costs. Those costs then get passed on to consumers, making everything from vehicles to appliances more expensive. But the impact doesn't stop there. As tariffs disrupt global supply chains, other countries start looking for alternative trade partners. This weakens the U.S.'s influence in international markets and pushes global powers like China to strengthen economic ties elsewhere. So, while tariffs may seem like a strong economic tool, they often lead to unintended consequences, like inflation, job losses, and weakened global alliances. China's strong position in the trade war. One of the biggest differences between the U.S. and China in this trade war is strategy. The U.S. has often reacted impulsively, imposing tariffs, restricting trade, and engaging in economic conflicts with multiple nations at once. China, on the other hand, has taken a calculated approach. By strengthening trade relationships with other countries, diversifying its supply chains, and securing long-term resource deals, China has positioned itself as a dominant player in the global economy. This strategic foresight gives them a significant advantage over the U.S., which frequently shifts policies based on short-term political goals. If this trend continues, China's economic influence will continue to grow, while the U.S. risks losing its foothold in key industries. China and India, a new alliance? For years, China and India have had a tense relationship, often clashing over border disputes and regional dominance. But recently, there has been a shift. China has recognized the importance of maintaining strong regional ties, and by improving relations with India, it creates a powerful counterbalance to U.S. influence in Asia. This change could have major geopolitical implications. If China and India strengthen their economic and military partnerships, it could lead to a realignment of power in the region, one where the U.S. plays a much smaller role. China and Japan, a surprising reset. Another significant development is China's improving relationship with Japan. Historically, the two nations have had a complicated past, but in recent years, they've been engaging in more diplomatic and economic cooperation. This is a strategic move by China. By building stronger ties with Japan, it creates a united front in Asia that could challenge U.S. dominance in the region. The question is the U.S. prepared for a world where China and Japan are more aligned? If Washington fails to adapt to these shifting alliances, it could lose its influence in one of the most economically significant regions in the world. China's long-term strategy versus America's short-term thinking. China has always played the long game. Whether it's investing in infrastructure, securing resources, or strengthening diplomatic ties, China's approach to global strategy is measured and deliberate. In contrast, U.S. policy often changes with each administration, creating an unpredictable business environment. This inconsistency makes it difficult for American companies to plan long-term, while China's businesses benefit from stability and strategic government support. If the U.S. doesn't adopt a similar forward-thinking approach, it risks falling behind in the global economy. The U.S. dollar at risk. Another major concern is the future of the U.S. dollar. For decades, the dollar has been the world's reserve currency, giving the U.S. enormous economic power. But with Trump's unpredictable trade policies and aggressive tariffs, many countries are looking for alternatives. Nations like Russia, China, and even some European countries are moving away from dollar-based trade, opting instead to use local currencies. If this trend continues, the dollar's dominance could weaken, leading to inflation, economic instability, and reduced global influence for the U.S. The global dollar shortage crisis. Adding to the problem is a growing shortage of dollars in global markets. Many developing nations rely on U.S. dollars for trade, but with increasing restrictions and economic uncertainty, access to dollars is becoming more difficult. This scarcity could force emerging economies to shift away from dollar-based transactions, further accelerating the decline of U.S. financial dominance. Why countries are moving away from the dollar. With rising instability in U.S. economic policies, more nations are choosing to trade in their own currencies. This is a trend that could reshape global finance in the coming years. If the demand for the dollar continues to decline, it could have serious implications for the U.S. economy, leading to inflation, weaker global influence, and potential financial crises. Final thoughts. The trade war between the U.S. and China is not just about tariffs. It's about power, strategy, and long-term economic dominance. While the U.S. continues to react impulsively, China is making strategic moves that could reshape global trade for decades to come. The question is, can the U.S. adapt to this new reality, or will it be left behind? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you found this video insightful, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into global economics. See you soon!